Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is still doing well, and welcome to tonight's night ending bonus. Before we jump into it, a couple links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman, Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow, simply subscribe. It doesn't cost a cent. Click that like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon. And folks, please leave a comment and share the video. Why? Well, because all of these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. And yes, folks, they definitely do matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump into this night-ending bonus upload, shall we? Today's first encounter. I live in a small country town in Australia. To paint a visual, the town I live in is set on giant hills, surrounded by a lake and bushland in which you need to cross a bridge that runs parallel between the lake and the giant coal mine power station that our town is renowned for. It was a Sunday night around 8 p.m. I had just finished work at the fish and chip shop a town over from the mine. As it was summer, so it was still light outside, and it wouldn't get dark until about 9:30-10 p.m. I got into my car and was driving home. As I started coming down toward the 4 lanes next to the power station, toward my town, I saw a shadow up ahead on the right, running fast alongside the wire fence of the power station car park. I immediately slowed down because wildlife like kangaroo have a tendency to run out in front of people's cars. But this thing kind of looked like a dog. I thought at first, I remember thinking, what is a dog doing all the way out here? Then, as it came closer, it was running on all fours, kind of like a gallop, straight toward my car. Then it diagonally leaps, crossing the 2 lanes leading out of town and on to the 2 lanes in front of me. I could now see this thing clearly. It was not a dog. It was so much bigger. This creature had the exact face and head shape of a dog, but no fur. Instead, it was like extremely pale human skin. This thing was so close to my car, I could see its giant blue veins down its body to its long tail, as well as every joint moving in its legs as it ran. It then went across the road in front of me and leapt over the guardrail onto the left of my car like it was nothing. It's like time just stopped. All I could hear was the blood pumping through my heart and in my head, thinking, what the hell was that thing? I realized my car was at a complete stop in the middle of the road, and then my body just woke back up like a jolt of this overwhelming dread of pure fear. My blood felt like ice. I immediately locked my doors and slammed my foot, speeding home. When I got home, I was so shaken and trembling. When I told my family, the only way I could fully explain exactly what it looked like was that a werewolf from Harry Potter, but my father just laughed at me and joked if I had been smoking drugs. No one to this day believes me, nor have I heard anyone else seeing it. Even though this happened years ago, it still terrifies me to walk my dogs down by the lake on my own. Today's second part of the upload. I've been living in these apartment complex in upstate New York since I was young, so I've seen many people come and go. The complex was a wooded area behind it that me and my friends used to explore and play in when we were young. We had found some strange things, old voodoo-looking dolls, some clay pots and bowls, Strange stuff that didn't seem so strange when we were so young. Next to the wooded area was a building that us kids that lived in the complex went to go get help with our homework. The place has since closed down. There would be students from local colleges volunteering to come help us with our homework. One day, when getting off the bus, one of the volunteers was waiting for me and a friend. She said she needed a translator for a woman that needed help. When we got to the office, the woman was noticeably in shock. She was an elderly lady who spoke Russian, my native language. She began explaining that she had seen a human-like face with a bear-like body come out of the woods when she was going for a walk and approached her. She said the creature was an animal she had never seen before, and it looked demonic. When we explained this to the volunteers, I remember them brushing it off. Obviously, the woman sounded crazy. I never saw the woman again and almost forgot about the incident since it was so strange. Some years later, we had a family friend who was coming to our apartment to hang with my mom. I was in my room, but could still hear their conversation. She said she had been walking behind my apartment late last night with her dog when she saw something in the woods stalking her. She said it was all hairy and almost looked like a human, but couldn't explain it. She said she was so scared for her life, and when she made eye contact with the creature, it ran away. This was in the same area the woman from years before had saw the creature. The way she was explaining it was almost exactly like the woman from years before. I remember sleeping with my blinds closed for some times after. I'm planning on moving out of here in the next couple of weeks. I still don't know what a reasonable explanation could be for both these women that have never met but saw the same creature years apart. There would be no benefit to make up such a story. I don't believe in ghosts or demons or anything like that, but maybe something else. Today's third encounter definitely belongs on this channel, and it is very terrifying. I did a little background digging, and, well, it just solidified everything that happened to this poor guy and his friend. So let's get into it. This experience happened a little while back. I was on a camping trip in South Georgia backwoods. Brought a friend along who we'll call Joel. We were given directions to the campsite by one of Joel's neighbors. We had been told that it was at the end of an unmarked dirt road off of I-75 in Dooley County, Georgia, just below Macon. It wasn't that vague. I just don't want to give away the exact location. His neighbor mentioned one road that we should not go down under any circumstances. He didn't tell us why, but we just figured that the road was unsuitable for a large pickup truck or anything like that. He said that the off-limits woods would have a large tree leaning over the road, and that would be the can't miss it sign of the road not to go on. We kind of laughed it off and forgot about it in the excitement of the trip. No really big deal. We began the 2-hour drive south and came to the exit and began looking for the road. Once we found it, we turned and we were met with a large tree that had fallen and was blocking our path. This was no big deal for us, so we threw some chains around it and pulled it to the side with the truck. We drove for about 3 minutes before coming to a dead end where we'd set up camp. We decided it would just be easier to set up right there on the road in front of the truck. Nobody would be back here anyway. We got out the gear and I began setting up the tent while Joel went and gathered some firewood. I was fooling with one of the joints on the tent. The sun was going down and it was beginning to get colder, which was an inspiration to focus on getting the shelter up. I then felt a presence behind me. I figured it was Joel walking around back there and ignored the feeling. The feeling then turned into instinctive fear, forcing me to turn around. I saw the silhouette of a man standing next to a tree, Relieved, I thought it was Joel, so I resumed my work on the tent. I said, "Don't sneak up on me like that, dude. You scared the shit out of me. Did you grab the firewood?" No answer. I asked again, no answer. He just stood there about 15 feet away and didn't move an inch. At this point, I was a little irritated that he was ignoring me and finally shined my flashlight on his face to ask again. What I saw truly horrified me. The man was not Joel. It was a scrawny man about 5'5" who was completely naked and had hair down to his feet. But it was his face, namely his eyes, that scared me the most. He had the most neutral expression on his face, almost a curious look that in itself was enough to scare you shitless. But it was his eyes that horrified me the most. They were completely black and looked extremely evil, pure evil, and almost unearthly. I could feel them looking straight through my soul and mind when suddenly I saw my memories flash in my mind like a slideshow, and I could tell it was reading my thoughts. Then it happened. I felt the most awful feeling I had ever felt in my entire life. I can't really describe it except that I felt like someone was trying to turn me inside out. This caused me to panic, and I screamed at the top of my lungs, "Jesus!" The instant I said that, everything went black. I woke up 7 or 8 hours later, lying on the ground in the morning dew. The morning sun was warm on my face. I sat up, looked around, and was relieved that it was gone. For about 5 minutes my vision was very blurry, and I had a splitting headache like I had been hit with a baseball bat. But I couldn't see or feel any marks on my head. There wasn't even a bump. Sitting there, recovering from the headache, I suddenly felt that soul-wrenching feeling again. But this time I was not taking any chances. I threw all the gear into the truck, floored it out of there, gripping the Bible to the point the pages were ripping. I wanted nothing more but to go faster and faster out of those woods. The further I got from the campsite, the more the feeling went away and the safer I felt. Before long, I was driving north on I-75, heading home when it hit me. Joel! How could I have been so stupid? Where was he? Did he make it back to the main road? I was so upset and horrified that I was almost brought to tears. I kept asking over and over in my head, how could I have been so careless? I actually drove 5 or 6 miles debating with myself between turning around and going back or just calling the police to report a missing person. I had to do the right thing. I turned my old Dodge around and headed back south. When I entered the woods, I noticed that feeling was not there. Whatever it was had left for good. The lack of fear gave me confidence, but I was not taking any chances. When I got to the campsite, I chambered my gun. I began to search. For an hour I looked and looked, but I simply didn't feel that he was in these woods. I left for the final time and went home completely exhausted and emotionally drained. The police were notified that same day, and there was a 3-day search before he was found about a mile from the campsite. He had been completely decapitated. There was no murder weapon ever found. I was upset to the point of suicide when I heard the news because, at the time, I was blaming myself. I know now that it was not my fault. He was killed that night. I saw the thing in the woods. And I believe that he was killed by the thing. I know now that I was his next target, but I believe that the Lord protected me that night. Turns out we had taken the wrong dirt road. It was the very road that the neighbor told me not to go on. To this day the case remains unsolved, and of course, I don't expect they will ever catch the thing that killed him. Quick interjection. After doing the research and looking into the case, I sat here for a while, and I reread the incident a couple, 3 times, and I weighed out the options of what I thought may have happened. I don't think that it was I don't think that it was a paranormal creature. I think it was a feral man. I think the feeling that he had was a fear of absolute terror. I've heard numerous cases of these feral people that have had black eyes that live in the mountains. Or it could have been something paranormal, but for some reason, my brain just keeps saying feral man or feral person. But yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. It's a very, very sinister case. And I did talk to a person that lives in Georgia, a subscriber, and I asked him if he had ever remembered hearing anything about this, and he said, yeah, he did, actually. It was big news around that area a while back, he said, so anyway, it's freaking crazy. What do you guys think it was? Let me know, please, in the comments. Today's fourth part of the upload. I had a bad hiking experience September 9th and 10th, 2001. Myself and my cousin decided to go hiking around an awesome place we go trout fishing in Somerset County, PA. No trails. We wanted a new experience, so we blazed a trail into a very remote area. My dad dropped us off at the creek on the 9th and was going to pick us up at the same location on the 10th. The day was awesome, great weather. Although it was hot since the hiking was all uphill and steep. We had our goal set for the top of the mountain, but due to the thick vegetation we had to whack through most of the way, we didn't make our goal. Come evening, we had made it part of the way up the mountain that leveled out, so we decided this is where we'd stop for the night. We didn't have any tents, instead we made shelters from tarps and rope we had taken with us. We made our fire and cooked up some freeze-dried food. By the time we'd got done eating, it was probably 10 p.m. We were sitting around the fire just relaxing from our grueling hike at this point. The insect noise was deafening that night, but I started to hear this odd noise off to the distance. It raised the hair on the back of my neck. I didn't see anything at first. I just tried to listen and listen closer. But soon I could tell that whatever it was getting closer. I said to my cousin, "Do you hear that?" But he couldn't. I said, "It sounds like people talking loud and making a lot of noise out there. There is no way there were other people out here and walking around at this hour." And all the while it was getting even closer, and he could now hear it as well. And it was now clear that this pack of dog or coyote, they were heading our way. We could hear them barking, yapping, snarling, and just making all kind of noise. At this point, we were both very frightened. We were piling more wood on the fire, hoping that it would keep them away. They got so close that I was thinking any second I'll be able to see them. They must have ran by within 20 yards of us, but never came into the light of the fire. And just as quick as they came, they went off into the distance until we couldn't hear them anymore. That was really scary. We didn't know if they were going to come back. Neither of us slept in our shelters that night. We even contemplated packing out and trying to find our way back down the mountain, but decided that was not a good idea. We just sat there around the fire, leaning against some trees, dozing off periodically throughout the night. As soon as it was light enough to see, we packed out and hiked out. And the dogs weren't the only thing. All throughout the night, I could just hear things from further up the mountain. It was very strange. The sound of trees crashing down, something large pushing through the thick brush. I won't go there again without a weapon. Today's fifth encounter. So my dad and I were hiking back in late November of 2005 in a place called the UBC Research Forest north of Pitt Meadows, British Columbia, Canada. About 30 miles east and a bit north of Vancouver. It's on the edge of the mountains with several logging roads and trails. Anyway, the day was already getting late when we headed out. The weather was horrible. No wind, but there were showers and hail and slush. It was about 3 degrees out. We were the only ones in the hiking area. The parking lot was empty both when we arrived and left. So after about an hour of hiking randomly up logging roads and trails, we were a good several clicks into the area when we took a break by a small stream and a small gully. Anyway, we smelled this horrible scent, sort of skunkish, with a human and fish scent mixed in. Anyway, neither of us had ever smelled anything like this before, and we both have encountered every large animal there is out on the coast. Because there was no wind, we knew it was close. So we kept going along this hillside. Above us, 50 feet, is an old, overgrown logging slash. Below us is thickly wooded slope. Could see maybe 150 feet down the slope. Anyway, we get this feeling like we're being followed. The forest becomes too silent. Even the local ravens don't make a sound. We smell that scent another 2 times stronger, so we begin hiking faster. As we come out of that small gully, we hear a crash. Spinning around, we race back to the crest and look back down. Something large and tall, easily taller than my dad, who is 6 foot, disappears into the brush. We just catch a glimpse of dark brown. Because neither of us are armed, we continue on at full pace, knowing there's a logging road ahead. Again, we smell this weird smell. We hear noises from the old logging meadow above us. Whatever it is moving very silently, yet the odd time it would break a branch or bump a small tree. Anyway, I've been followed by bear and cat before, but neither of them moved like this, and it was way too silent. Just for the record, grizzlies are in this area, but I've encountered them before as well. After we round a bend in the slope, we hear movement again. It was on the lower side of us now, or so it seemed. After another few minutes, we hear it again and smell it. Now it's moving on the upper side of us, just over the low ridge, maybe 100 feet away. By now, we can see the logging road 100 or 200 feet ahead. Then this thing lets out a cry. It sent shivers down my spine. My dad, who I've never seen afraid before except the one time I was near death, another story, went cold. It sounded the cross between a whoop, a human, and something unknown, and it lasted for about 5 seconds. We turned and ran to the road. Running down the road, we pass a junction and continue heading south. I dropped something a few seconds later. About 200 feet past the junction, I stop, turn, and pick it up. Up against the trees, something tall and dark ducked out of sight. What it was, I haven't a clue. But it was tall and fairly slim. It was too dark to really tell what it was, getting close to dark, and so we ran back to the parking lot. Unfortunately, it snowed the next day several inches, otherwise we would have gone back and searched for evidence of the occurrence, which to this day both of us are scared of. Nevertheless, this is the only time I've ever been scared in the woods. And to this day I wish, despite the fear, that it would happen again, so I might see what this thing is. Today's final part of the upload. I used to have a big truck. I delivered a load to New Orleans about noon one day. I drove all night to get there from Atlanta. I got reloaded for the trip home and found a truck stop in Slidell, Louisiana. I slept for a good 8 hours, got a shower and a good meal. I was going to run Highway 59 north to Beeham. I was maybe 30-45 minutes out of Slidell. It was 2:30 in the morning. I was well rested and ready for the 8-hour return home. I was running fast as there was no traffic, none, no cars, no exits, nothing. I saw something standing on the side of the road just out of the woods. I started to slow down. My first thought was it was a hitchhiker. I had my bright lights and fog lights on. It was lit up and very well. I was still a half a mile out. I thought, damn, whatever that is big. Then I thought, it's real hairy. I put the brakes on hard as he took 2 steps toward the road. I never stopped completely, but came to a crawl. This thing was 6 to 7 feet tall, all hair, no neck, and massive shoulders. The hair on its head blent in with its body. It was either some idiot in a suit or a creature I've never seen before. I would take a complete crap for brains to dress up and stand on the side of the road. In that part of country, Bubba would shoot first and identify later. Everybody has a pickup with long guns in the rear window. All I carry when I drive is my Colt Mustang pocket light in 380. Had I been stupid enough to stop, I was seriously underarmed. This thing was huge. I was wide awake and alert. When I realized what I was looking at, I pushed the throttle so far I was in danger of losing toes in the engine fan. The rest of the drive home, I kept replaying it in my head. I told my wife about a month later. She believes me because I don't make shit up. All right, folks, that's it for the encounters. Now let's jump into the video evidence of what I consider a soft disclosure by the media and the government.
Look how big it is. I don't think it is a human. I think it's a Sasquatch.
It was a bluebird January morning here in the foothills of northeast Provo when a group of guys saw a figure on the mountain that looked like something they've never seen before.
You can't just see something that's maybe a once-in-a-century discovery and go do your 9-to-5 job. You got to go look for fur or footprints or some kind of evidence.
And the camera was rolling as Austin took to the mountain with a buddy on a search for the elusive Bigfoot.
So I'm seeing something that is not deer tracks anymore. We're trying to determine what it is.
Their findings were inconclusive.
Was it a bear? Maybe. That's plausible. Was it a person? Also plausible. Was it something else? I think that's also plausible. Who knows?
On the other hand, I spoke to a curator from the Natural History Museum of Utah who says not only is that figure in the video not Sasquatch, but it's safe to say that Sasquatch is not something that would even exist.
What's the likelihood that there are big animals that have gone undetected by scientists and by trained observers?
Dr. Eric Rickard has spent much of his career exploring places people have never gone before in search of new species. So far, no Bigfoot or anything like it.
There are lots of undiscovered things, particularly in the natural world. But they don't take the form of giant apes running around in largely settled areas of the world.
So what do you believe?
I'm really hoping I get to go look again. Maybe there's something out there to find right here in Utah, even in Provo. Seriously. Look how big it is. I don't think it is a human. I think it's a Sasquatch.
It was a bluebird January morning here in the foothills of northeast Provo when a group of guys saw a figure on the mountain that looked like something they've never seen before.
You can't just see something that's maybe a once-in-a-century discovery and go do your 9-to-5 job. You got to go look for fur or footprints or some kind of evidence.
And the camera was rolling as Austin took to the mountain with a buddy on a search for the elusive Bigfoot.
So I'm seeing something that is not deer tracks anymore. We're trying to determine what it is.
Their findings were inconclusive.
Was it a bear? Maybe. That's plausible. Was it a person? Also plausible. Was it something else? I think that's also plausible. Who knows?
On the other hand, I spoke to a curator from the Natural History Museum of Utah who says not only is that figure in the video not Sasquatch, but it's safe to say that Sasquatch is not something that would even exist.
What's the likelihood that there are big animals that have gone undetected by scientists and by trained observers?
Dr. Eric Rickard has spent much of his career exploring places people have never gone before in search of new species. So far, no Bigfoot or anything like it.
There are lots of undiscovered things, particularly in the natural world. But they don't take the form of giant apes running around in largely settled areas of the world.
So what do you believe?
I'm really hoping I get to go look again. Maybe there's something out there to find right here in Utah, even in Provo.
In tonight's Mino Project, we brought you the story of a Menominee, Michigan man who captured a strange image on his trail camera back on Halloween. After sending it into a show on Animal Planet, a team from Finding Bigfoot descended on his property to investigate. Last night, his story aired nationally for the first time, and tonight, it's a story you'll see only on NBC 26.
A cabin deep in the woods on a cold winter's night. But inside, nerves a little on edge as Craig Sulk and friends gather around the TV for the unveiling of the program shot on his property.
Thing on the hill.
I'm very excited, a little nervous, and I really look forward to seeing how the Finding Bigfoot team put this all together and what their final results are on the picture.
This will be another part of the UP that may have more than one, may have a few families of squatches.
This is the spot we visited last fall, the spot where an unusual image showed up in one of his trail cam photos. Back then, we couldn't show it. Now we can. A dark, hulking image amongst the trees that appeared in one frame and disappeared.
There is clearly something there.
And all I wanted to know, what is the truth? What is in this picture?
Out of the 3 photographs taken less than 2 minutes apart from one another, in that middle photograph, that large figure is there, but not in the other 2. That means something moved in and moved out of frame in those 3 photographs.
For 9 hours, the crew investigated.
Plan for the night is Renee and Cliff are going to go in one direction, Bobo and I are going to go in another direction.
And came away scratching their heads like the rest of us.
I just wish we could have came to more of a consensus on exactly what that is, because that was the reason for getting them here in the first place, is to find out what is in that picture.
Craig strikes me as an honest guy. He wasn't trying to get a prize-winning photo of a Sasquatch. He's not even saying this is a Bigfoot photo.
And a lot of times they'll just say, not a Sasquatch, not a Bigfoot. And in this case, I'm determined.
You relieved?
Relieved.
So the question remains, are those in the cabin the ones doing the watching, or the ones still being watched? Mino, NBC 20.
Does Bigfoot have a family? This grainy picture from an Arizona Department of Transportation traffic cam has some asking. On their Facebook page, the agency posted the mysterious photo and asked if it could possibly be a Sasquatch family standing in the snow. Reaction to the post was mixed. Some thought it was funny. Others could relate. This guy came up with a practical explanation. So did the traffic cam really get a family portrait of Bigfoot's family? Thousands of likes, shares, and comments later, the jury is still out.
All right, folks, whether that be a media/government soft disclosure or the media just having fun, to me, I don't believe that the media nor the government likes to waste money. That's a big reason why I truly believe the government knows and hides this from us. Like I say, why would there be laws on the books protecting Bigfoot or having a hunting season for Bigfoot if these creatures didn't exist? It's just dumb politics and dumb money management. Yes, the government loves to manage money poorly, but I don't think they'd be wasting it this way. They have other things they'd like to waste it on, like themselves. Well, there you have it, folks. I hope you all enjoyed this night-ending bonus as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you, and I'd like to thank you all for supporting the channel. It is, after all, your support that keeps this channel growing and going, and what gives folks like us a chance to share our experiences and theories judgment-free. Just simply treated with the respect that we all deserve. Please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family and friends, these creatures are real. They are out there and dangerous. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions. Never stop searching for the truth. And God bless.